Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. I am joined by Royan today. Say hi, Royan.
Hi, everybody.
And we come to talk about the first teaser trailer for Lord of the Rings on Prime, The Rings of Power. And that's crazy to actually say that and not in a dream.
I know. So for just a little bit background, the first image of the trailer that we were able to find was on Jeff Bezos' Twitter.
Interesting marketing strategy.
At this moment, he tweeted it about 6 or 7 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I literally have the Super Bowl on my other screen. I haven't seen it come up. I'd be amazed if I missed it at some point. I don't think I did, but I haven't seen it in the commercial. I feel like I definitely would notice it since it's on my other monitor, but we'll have to see.
Yeah,
also,
it's a minute long. Like, we would notice it for sure.
I also have, I had the Prime Video live stream up, and it was paused, but now it's on, and there's just two guys just standing on it,
Oh.
Okay, wait.
Well, should we?
I don't know. Yeah,
let's jump in.
Applicable.
Our last Amazon video kind of ran long when we were looking at the posters, so we'll try to keep this one a little tighter, a little shorter. It's a 1-minute trailer, and there's a lot that you can go through here. We'll just take it kind of not frame by frame, but kind of scene by scene almost. So I'll just go through a quick overview of what's seen here. So we have a shot of a city in Numenor, which looks amazing.
It looks beautiful.
Could be Andunier. Then we go to this kind of overhead wide shot of some hunters with those antlers that we've seen in the picture from the article released last week. Them walking over a hill. In the next one, we have a little girl here, and she's talking. She could be a Harfoot or an elf, perhaps. And then in the next scene, we have Galadriel on an icy glacier. Could be the Helcaraxe. I've heard speculation about that. Using like her dagger sword to climb, I guess. Next one, man in water sinking. Could be
shipwreck.
Some
kind of shipwreck.
Or the fall of Numenor, perhaps.
It'd be weird to show Numenor and then the fall of Numenor in the same 1-minute trailer, but
it's true.
We've already kind of accepted that this series is going to be very interesting and weird because of timing.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we have an elf catching an arrow, shooting it back. We have a meteor flying over. According to Fellowship of Fans, this contains a character that supposedly will be evil. So it could be like Sauron or something. An elf man, Gil-galad, probably? Is that what we're thinking?
I think it's Gil-galad.
Yeah,
I think it's Gil-galad. Dark hair.
Yeah.
It's immediately following that
meteor.
Fiery meteor shot, but that does not necessarily mean that those two scenes are related in any way.
And then we
it could
have
just be, a reaction.
That's true. Trailers do like to do that where it's like cut the reactions. Then we have Galadriel leading a horse charge and her fighting this crazy cave troll type of thing.
Yeah, she's like definitely in some sort of cave or adventure thing going on. Don't know what that creature is, just looking at it.
Yeah.
Tusks.
And then we have a setting with elves near, I want to say some Malorn trees, or at least trees with golden leaves. This could be in Linden. If so, that's hype. Dwarf man looking sad. Young Elrond. Dwarf
looking
woman.
Hot. Honest about that one.
Dwarf woman singing. Screaming.
I think it's a singing.
Oh, okay. Galadriel in water. This might be her coming to Numenor at some point, based on
No.
Fellowship of
Look at
Fans.
this. Look at this a little bit closer. This person is lifting her hair to take a look at her.
Yeah,
she looks distraught. I think she's been captured by something.
By Numenorians, I think. In Fellowship of Fans, like in one of his videos a couple months ago. We'll get more into this as we go more in depth. But Galadriel, I think, is captured by Numenorians. Looks like a mannish kind of hand. We have some fire, and then dwarf breaking rock. Elf doing some acrobatics. And then we have some fighting with some orcs, and then big hand grabs small hand. And I want to, I want to say that hand, the big hand, is the meteor guy, the guy with that holds the apple in the poster.
Oh, you might be right there.
Yeah, and I believe, according to Fellowship of Fans at least, that is that character. The guy holding the apple is the one who fell from the meteor. So, anyway, we don't have to, since we went frame by frame there, we can just kind of jump into the things that grabbed us, the the bigger moments or the smaller things. Royan, what are your thoughts overall about this trailer?
So, it just from based on screen time in this trailer, it definitely feels like Galadriel is going to be our main character, for our main character moving forward. And honestly, I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah.
This actress who's playing it, she looks great. Honestly, I like the way that she's being portrayed as just kind of like a confident warrior. Something that is concerning also, by the way, it's now airing on TV. I'm watching it right now.
Oh, good.
Something that I think is interesting is that we have a couple different scenes here that seem to kind of place together that she's on some sort of journey.
Yeah.
Whether or not, we've talked about potentially it being the Helcaraxe, but even if it's not, and she's just on a trip, you could easily attribute her journey climbing that like frozen cliff, and then also her in a cave fighting or running away from a monster, leading a horse charge. All these things could be somewhat related to some sort of hero's journey that she's going on, but I can't think of anything from the canon that would be attributed to. But we've talked about this before, where there's not a whole lot of connections between the stories that they seem to want to tell. So this could be something that they are crafting themselves,
and it could be a flashback too. If we are talking Helcaraxe, it looks like there are elven warriors beneath her as she's making this climb. Now,
or at least somebody with a cloak. It's kind of hard to see whether or not they're elven. They're weird if they weren't.
A couple folks with some cloaks. That rhymed. I would be surprised if this was Helcaraxe to some extent, because the problem, if the entirety of Fingolfin's host had to cross the Helcaraxe doing this, that would be nuts. That would be a lot of people. Royan, you're absolutely right, though. It does look like she's kind of this, very much so a lead, according to this trailer, and very much so going on an adventure of her own. As we talked about with her potentially getting captured, what Fellowship of Fans said, now this broke back in late October, I want to say, a Galadriel leak that he included me with. We talked about how the leak said she was going to get captured by Númenóreans who brought her to the king. And this was at a time when elves weren't so accepted, right? You have the king's men, you have the the corrupting of Númenor, where elves are kind of more hindered in Númenor, not welcomed so much. With her being an ambassador, I've had thoughts on that. If you're curious, you can watch that video for more in-depth thoughts. Overall, I'm kind of wondering if she is an ambassador during a time of right before the fall of Númenor. How does she not get killed? How does she escape persecution? How does a war between Númenóreans and Noldor not break out? And also, why exactly is she there? I assume for reasons related to Sauron asking for help, perhaps. So that stands out to me as well, the Galadriel-centric stuff. I will say, so tone-wise, especially with that establishing shot of Númenor, the sets and cinematography look incredible, and I feel like it would be hard to deny that. You can tell a lot of money and budget and kind of planning went into the set pieces and the costume designs, at least most of the costumes here, everything like that. Now, plot-wise, okay, the one that gets me before we move to plot is the Lindon/Lothlorien looking set. I love that. Yeah. I love that one with the elves.
It's gorgeous looking.
It really is. And I'm a big fan of Lindon, first stage and after the destruction of Beleriand, so that'd be awesome to be able to see Lindon more kind of fleshed out. But now let's get to plot. It seems like it's very much action-driven. It's very much...
I think this wasn't a huge thing that people were talking about, but I definitely saw on the internet some comments in various places like Reddit and YouTube comments that, not necessarily on this channel, but that people are concerned that this would become, in the way that some shows are recently, less of an action-driven show and more of a character drama. And that, just from the trailer, just how much action is happening here, that does not seem to be the case. I think at least half of these scenes are various conflicts of some kind. We have the elf who catches an arrow, flicks it back, and shoots it back. First of all, is that somewhat silly? Maybe.
kind of epic.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's like such an elf Chad thing to do, you know?
I know, like it's like Legolas and Peter Jackson like sliding down the Oliphant trunk and like shooting people. It's perfect, honestly. It's right there. It's not too silly enough and not cool enough to be like a Mandalorian finale spin shot. I'm sure you people have seen it on the internet recently. But it's, I don't know, it just looked super cool. I was kind of into it. There's other things, like there's some clear conflict, some Var scale conflict. We have we have the horse charge scene, and then we have another elf man. It looked like I couldn't really see his face because he's only on screen for like a quarter of a second, looking up at the camera sort of. That's clearly like a large conflict battle with orcs. And I don't know how much of this is going to be set between, if they do too many time jumps between like flashbacks and real time and fast forwarding, it could get really messy. So I feel like they probably wouldn't have just it probably wouldn't just be like, you know, every episode you have like a couple callbacks to a couple different points in Second Age and just in Middle Earth history in general. So I do think that they will be
mostly on
creating some of their own smaller scale conflicts that are also large scale with lots of characters involved.
And so I
kind of like that a lot.
I mean, that does actually play into what the article said last week. Sorry I didn't make a video on it. I felt like there wasn't enough substance with that article, and I was also visiting my Tenuvial, so definitely some more important things than making a video on that article piece from Vanity Fair. But they did talk about how the timeline could be compressed to kind of make narrative sense. And granted, I've seen this argument as well, where it's like Peter Jackson did kind of similar thing, where it's like it's not quite clear that Gandalf was gone for 17 years like he was in the book at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But if they are following this one cohesive narrative, or trying to not have too many flashbacks, as you say, Royan, I could see that compression kind of happening, or see it a little bit present here. Now, this has given me time to reflect on like not only this trailer, but the teaser that came with the whole Rings of Power title reveal, things like that. I think the thing that bothers me, I don't know if it's what bothers everybody, is so when you have something that you're making an adaptation of, you know, any kind of Lord of the Rings or whatever it is, and then you say, hey, we're gonna have to add some of our own story plots and elements, things like that. You know, I get it, and you know, with an adaptation you kind of have to do that sometimes. But when you do that, you make some of the things feel like somewhat generic modern fantasy put to film, put to a TV show. When it's like, okay, we're adapting, but we're also doing other fantasy-esque storylines. It might make it not feel like Lord of the Rings. And I think that's one of my bigger problems.
Depends on how well they write it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of my bigger problems, because like I like parts of this trailer for sure, but other parts feel like that generic. This is like a generic D&D campaign, you know.
If it is really like a guy falling out of the sky in a meteor, and then, you know, wreaking havoc on the world, like Fellowship of Fans is. I mean, it's not really a big secret, but I'm literally running a D&D campaign where that happened.
Yeah, that's true. And again, I think in some aspects, like a D&D campaign, it makes sense to have these story elements, and even elements that are derived from a bunch of fictions, you know, that we take from different sources and put into a D&D campaign. But when you're making a new piece of literature or show or something, and you kind of have these tropey moments that aren't in the source material that you're adapting, I think that's what's kind of giving me this like off feeling with the trailer and with the
are you seeing things that are like, you know, pretty tropey? Do you want to throw some examples, or is it more like just a general fear?
It's a bit of a general like feeling for sure. But so the meteor's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up. So the meteor's a great example. One thing that feels very Lord of the Rings-y and not very like original Amazon, right, is the Numenor shot. But then the things that feel kind of generic are, you have the hunters with these huge horns, and it's like, are these the Lossoth? I would doubt that. I would doubt that these are the men of Forokel. I don't know. Perhaps. But then you have like Random Kid 1 talking about stories and legends, and I'm like, Okay, I just don't know if are you a hobbit? Are you an elf? What's going on here? But that does feel very kind of generic, fantasy-esque. Okay, the arrow shot, the whole grabbing the arrow out of midair, spinning it, shooting it back. I'm like, that feels kind of generic fantasy to me.
What do you mean? Like, we talked about how that happened in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. You know, Legolas does a lot of trick shots during movies.
And that's fair. That's a fair point. Him riding a shield, an orc shield downstairs as he's shooting. You could say even the same about some of these moments.
Yeah, I mean, even like in Moria, he gets like a collateral shot through two.
Oh yeah, two
orc
orcs.
Heads.
and that's totally fair. And I'm sure people are out there that are like, oh, that's generic fantasy tropes, and it could change, right, with more trailers and things like that could change some of how these moments feel to me. But I guess without the context and knowing that a lot of these moments are original,
we have really nothing left to assume other than some sort of trope, some sort of pattern that we're trying to recognize.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Because it's parts of this trailer are unrecognizable from the source material, which again, I mean, we have to say that with any adaptation, it's bound to happen. And in the Second Age, it's kind of necessary because so many events are spread out over so long. You know, you're going to have to compress some timelines, and you're going to have to put in some original stories or characters to make it a cohesive and interesting show. But these moments, hopefully they're not too... Like if I watch an episode, hopefully 90% of it is not like those original moments, with 10% of it being like resembling the source material. Hopefully it's the other way around, where it's like 90% of this feels like Middle-earth Second Age, resembles source material, and the other 10% is like the glue that kind of is pulling things together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going off of, you know, things that they're inventing versus things that they're adapting, I do think that they're going to run out of things to adapt and have and be able to create a cohesive story that lasts a television series. Like if this was an anthology series, where, you know, jumping around in time is not only, you know, okay, but kind of expected, then that would be a different story. But because they want to have a cohesive unit, if they just want to do, if they just want to do things that were written down, then they're going to run out of material incredibly quickly, and they're going to have a lot of different storylines that don't really connect to each other super well. So
it's very true.
They're going to have to make some things to just connect, you know, different events to each other that just don't have a lot of detail in the Silmarillion or the anthology.
I guess
not the anthology, but the appendices. So as long as those moments, those connections, those moments feel like it's not a significant downgrade in quality of storytelling, then this could be an amazing project.
Absolutely.
Now, that's a hard thing to pull off. I'm not gonna, you know, just say like, oh my God, why haven't they, you know, it's hard. It's hard to take something that was written by, I think everybody watching this will understand, the master of fantasy.
Yeah.
And
adapt
it or even try to emulate it without it feeling cheap.
Totally.
That's an incredibly difficult task.
No, you're right. And I guess overall, this trailer doesn't sway me too much in either direction. I'm still very much cautiously optimistic, but again, some really cool things like the sets and some of the costumes and character designs. Some things I'm very hyped about
here, and even something that I was really worried about. There's some shows on Amazon Prime that I feel like, I don't know if it's just the way that they're shot or the lighting choices that they make, but they are incredibly kind of artificial. This does not feel like that at all. This actually reminds me a whole lot of Peter Jackson. Like just the way that everything is colored and everything is lit and everything is shot. It brings me back. It's a callback. Even the moments where they're like, you know, you mentioned kind of generic fantasy, coming over that hill with the hunters with the big antlers. Like even then that kind of brought me back a little bit to those absolutely fantastic helicopter shots of watching the three hunters cross Rohan.
Totally. Yeah. And that's a good point. It's a good distinction to make, is even though right now, again, we don't have a lot of context for these shots, so some things feel more generic fantasy than others, doesn't mean it will stay that way. It doesn't mean that these moments will be bad. I'm just kind of saying my observations as I see them. I guess overall, I hope that this is the Middle-earth story that took place in the Second Age, not a Middle-earth story that took place in the Second Age. You know? Not like this is a fan fiction of something that happened in the Second Age.
So is there one of these shots that we absolutely have that you have absolutely no idea what's happening on, that kind of excites you? For me, it's probably the one with the dwarves breaking. I have no idea what's going on here.
I will admit. Yeah.
So there's like a scene in like a volcano or something with a bunch of fire, and I'm not certain, but I'm pretty sure somebody's naked in this scene, or at least mostly naked. And then it cuts to dwarf smacking a big rock with a hammer.
Yeah. I agree that the dwarf smacking the rock with a big hammer. I'm excited to know what's happening in that scene. For me though, it's the elves in Linden. It looks like they're holding a council of some sort. That looks amazing and very much Middle-earth and very much Tolkienian to me. So, very exciting. I'm curious to see this scene. Yeah, I mean, besides that, the Numenor, I mean, we have to give as many props as we can to the Numenor set. That looks incredible.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the first thing that I see, so like every time I rewatch it, I take another good look at it. I wonder if there's like a clue as to where's here. There's like a really large statue of what looks to be a king holding a sword with his hand up, pointing towards a large mountain almost.
So the large mountain is the central mountain in Numenor, I would want to say. But this looks like it's a seaport of some sort. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Andúnier, like where Elendil and Isildur and the Faithful come from. But
it's such a gorgeous set.
It really is. So,
I know it's probably mostly CGI. Yeah. But still, this is absolutely gorgeous.
Menel Tarma is the mountain. Menel Tarma. And Tarmar? Yes, Tarma. Sorry. That's such a hard one for me to say. Menel Tarma. And this could be... I would doubt that this is Armenelos, like the capital, because Armenelos is too far inland, I think. It could be Romena. But I would like to think maybe it's Andúnier. I guess we'll find out. I
guess we'll find out.
So I would say those two, Roy. And if I were to give you an answer to your question, it's like the Numenor establishing shot and then the like Linden elven shot. Even kind of adding that shot of Gil-galad. Like, if that is Gil-galad, I imagine it is. That is awesome. So let's keep the hype going on those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you want to that jumped out at you that you want to discuss?
Nothing that I haven't really touched on. We could touch on some of the really fast things that go towards the end.
Yeah.
There's the shot of Elrond, which of course I mentioned already.
Yeah.
He's hot.
What a man.
I don't know what to say on that.
He's in a battle, it looks like. He's like looking up. It could be the War of the Elves and Sauron, and if that's the case, amazing.
It definitely looks like some sort of weird conflict. The dwarf woman I'm not really sure what's going on with her, but there's this conflict towards the end, and so there's two specific like very short shots that are near the end that are both battles, but I don't think they're the same one. You have one of somebody leaping up in the air with like some large axe, and then a hard cut to a group of elves in conflict with orcs. You know, they're trying to hold like a line.
Yeah.
The weather is different. The lighting is different. Even the guy who's leaping in the air he looks like a human of some sort to me. So, you know, what I see here is that there's at least a series of exciting battle scenes for this show. And I don't know how many episodes this first season is going to be, but that's exciting to me. You know, I really don't want this show to get stuck trying to make the story work through, you know, dramatic character dialogue, and because there's just too many things to mess up in there. I feel
that's true.
Too much opportunity. When you have awesome fighting scenes, obviously there has to be some sort of substance to them. That's kind of a given. I'm not saying like, you know, all fights all the time for no reason, but there's definitely seems to be a lot of opportunity for, you know, really important conflict scenes, and that excites me a lot.
I like that. I hope that these aren't conflicts for the sake of having them.
Exactly, yeah.
But that they are like legitimate and that they've earned their place within the story.
And if it is the War of Elves and Sauron, like
that would be awesome.
That's awesome.
That's like that's one of the things that honestly I've wanted to see the most from this show is that
was what I was hoping the show
particular
basically focused on completely.
Yeah,
that was what I was kind of hoping. It was just all that. But
so we have this ship guy that's more towards the middle.
The like shipwreck guy?
Yeah, shipwreck guy. Sorry. Yeah. I'm not
There's
sure.
There's not a lot there to go off, man. Like that could be in the ocean or the sea. That could be in a lake.
That's a good point.
I have no idea what that guy's up to. But he's having a rough day. It looks like.
It's true. I would love if that was Amandiel, the father of Elendil, like going to Valinor, but I would doubt it. Again, I have no idea when this show is like gonna be really focusing its time, especially in season 1. But yeah. Amandiel going to warn the Valar about the fall of Numenor, like that kind of thing, that would be amazing. But yeah, I have no idea. The lack of context, it's good. They didn't really spoil much. Or
I love that they didn't spoil anything. I hate it when trailers spoil stuff. That's like a huge problem with movies.
Yeah.
Recently, it's like kind of give away everything in the trailer, and then I just don't want to watch trailers. It's just not good for your marketing. I'll tell you what.
Absolutely. But awesome. All right, so we're a little under the half-hour mark. Again, I kind of wanted to keep this one tighter. I got off a plane earlier today, so I'm tired. But yeah. Anything else, Ryan?
No, I think that's good to go.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you all so much, Ryan. As always, my friend, thank you so much for being here, for joining me. You always point out things and insights that really add to it.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for this project. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. I'm looking forward to a lot more videos with the Amazon show, a lot more reviews and conversations on our podcast. Speaking of which, if any of you want to hear more of our conversations about topics such as these, the Amazon show, and many other sorts of questions and topics from our Patreon and YouTube members, please check out our Patreon and YouTube members podcast, Western S Podcast, and feel free to help support the channel. It really means a lot. And speaking of which, thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Adrian De La Torre, Chris Ortner, Kyle Wetzel, Peter Sheppard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralick, Blair Scouten, Merten, John Hume, Sam McBee, Matt Sibbach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibs, Ben Gardner, Condar, Rhys Jenkins, Ádám Petrlik, Kuzan, Brandon Glidden, Molly Sullivan, and Daniel Burns. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of our patrons and YouTube members for making this all possible. My friends, let me know your thoughts on this trailer. Are you excited? Are you not? Did this help or did this hurt your anticipation for the show? Let me and Ryan know in the comments below. And my friends, thank you all so much for joining us on this adventure. Until the next one.